All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
You know, seriously, we've got a problem. We've got a really big, enormous problem. A big, enormous problem in that you have a lifetime appointment of an individual on the Supreme Court, called the Supreme Court because it's the most powerful court in the land of milk and honey. We've got a woman on the Supreme Court who is just, I'm trying to be nice, folks. I'm really trying to tame the language. I'm trying. The effort matters. Who is intellectually insufficient? Ketanji Brown Jackson has got to be one of the most unintellectual people, not just on the bench, but anywhere in the United States government. It's a huge news day today. Last night we had the presidential speech, cover that. We had the Birthright citizenship case, which is going to change the country. If the Supreme Court rules against President Trump, you understand, right, that the whole world's going to get the message, and the next Democrat administration, they're just going to open the border, and everybody is just now going to have a constitutional right that did not exist before in a outside of legal rule. It's not written in there. Get to the United States, have children illegally, and they're automatically citizens. That's not written into the law. That's what's up, is subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which I'll get to. They would have now a Supreme Court enshrined constitutional right. Just come here illegally, have babies, invade the country. Do you understand how crazy this is? And you've got Ketanji Brown Jackson asking questions that are so childlike. You have to say to yourself, like, is this real? We got that. And I want to discuss, folks, in due time. In due time. Been in the biz a long time. It's been over 10 years now. We're really happy to be part of this show, and thank you all for being here. But I promise you, we've been through these before. You ride the wave, and on the other side of it, you're going to see in due time, there's going to be a lot of people, not just with egg on their face, but a lot of people are going to have a lot to answer for. Hold on. We'll get to that in a second. Today's show brought to you by Blackout Coffee. You know, I'm a huge coffee drinker. I absolutely love my coffee. Can't get through the day without it. But I actually enjoy coffee for reasons outside the caffeine. Sometimes I'll even have some decaf just because I like it. Throw a little protein powder in there sometimes. I love my coffee. Check out the new Blackout Coffee, Bongino Army. We love Blackout Coffee. Blackout Coffee is one of our favorite sponsors. Dark roast, extra caffeinated, Bongino Army roast there. Yeah, we actually built this together. I called Blackout Coffee the official coffee of the Bongino Army for years. Now we made it official with our own collaboration roast, Bongino Army roast at Blackout Coffee. Check it out. Medium dark roasted for bold flavor and a heavy body, amped with some extra caffeine, strong without being bitter. It's coffee that tastes like coffee. Powerful without compromise. Even redesigned the bag for me right here on the valve. It says, sniff at your own risk. Yeah, that'll wake you up. A little sniff out of that bag. You see that? Wake you right up in the morning with the smell of coffee, which we love. I drink the coffee every day. I have it right there in my cup. Don't put my name on anything I don't believe in. It's great coffee, period. Go check it out. And don't forget their coffee club, fresh roasted coffee, shipped on your schedule, free shipping every time. And you can skip or swap anytime in seconds. It just makes life easier. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Bongino. Taste some damn good coffee today. I don't know any easier way to say it. Use code Bongino for 20% off your order. That's a big savings. That's blackoutcoffee.com/Bongino. Code Bongino at checkout for 20% off your first order. Check it out. Get some good coffee in you and get your day started. So let's get this show started today. Folks, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because there's other things to talk about. And one of the things I've learned in the 10 years of doing this show, you can't bombard the audience with the same thing over and over again, no matter how interesting or maybe uninteresting it is to you, but it's in the news every day. They want to hear about the whole portfolio cornucopia of things going on. They don't want to get lost in one story. I learned that early on. covering the Russia hoax, that you can't do 100% of your show every day on the same thing, even when it was in the news. You can do 80% and 20% is other news. So, but I do want to make sure you understand this, that right now what you're seeing with the Butler case, with the pipe bomber case, what you're seeing with Charlie Kirk, what you're seeing right now is an inversion of what we stand for as constitutionalists and Americans. We believe in process. We believe in order. We believe in evidence, not star chambers, not trial by Twitter. If you don't believe in that, listen, let me just be clear with you. This is not the show for you. It's okay. I will be fine. What bothers the grifters and bums and zeros and bots out there, well, the bots don't really have any feelings, that's why they're bots, is there's nothing you can do. The show's not going anywhere. The audience isn't going anywhere. Every day you tell me no one's going to show up tomorrow, and we just keep getting better. There's nothing you can do. And I know that bothers you. But attacking the process and United States citizens and trying to contaminate trials, try people on Twitter is just disgusting. I mean, that you got that grotesquity in Kentucky. Anyone in Kentucky in the Massey race, is this guy, does he ever do anything for Kentucky? Or does he spend all day attacking U.S. citizens on Twitter during ongoing criminal trials? But by the way, cases he knows nothing about. He thinks we don't see through his little rage bot army. There is no bigger loser in Congress than this guy. He just can't stop. He's like a child. Do you have any idea how many texts and tweets and DMs I get from people who know this guy saying, thank you for taking this zero on in his little rage bot army? It's all fake. None of it's real. Watch how coordinated the response is. It's odd because, forget about him for a minute. The guy's a zero. And I said, you guys pick who you want in Kentucky. It's not my district. I live in Florida. You want him? Fine. You can spend all his day claiming to be a libertarian while trying to impact an ongoing criminal trial and screw up due process. But there's absolutely no question we have an inversion of justice going on right now. Folks, you either believe in the system or you don't. That applies to Tyler Robinson. That applies to the pipe bomb case. But that also applies to Butler. The only reason I bring up Butler is I'm not going to mention, because again, it's not even worth it who it was. It doesn't even matter. I heard this guy commenting yesterday, Butler, we still don't know how we didn't get into any of the devices. Folks, I just told you last week or 2 weeks ago, I showed you the article on Fox News with the 2-hour sit down we did with Fox, where it's all out there. Like, all you had to do was read the article to see how many devices we get into. There's no device we didn't get into in the Butler case. It's just not true. You can say it all you want. It's just making you look like an idiot. That's why I tell you, in due time, when the fog of war of all this starts to dissipate, we've been through this before, folks. I've been through primaries where opponents of Donald Trump, when I supported Trump in 2016, 2020 and beyond, you have any idea how many supporters of other candidates would DM us? Guy, remember this? Remember we went through this in the primary? Yeah, I'm done. You suck. You're the worst. And then 3 weeks later, they're sending you the same thing. I thought you were done 3 weeks ago. We've been through this before. In due time, the truth always comes out. It's coming out now. It was a fascinating piece that came out last night. And when the truth comes out, you're going to have to tell your kids who you really were, which was, hey, I shouldn't have done that. That's what you're going to have to say to your kids. It's pretty embarrassing. You see it right now. And I've said to you often that the trick these people use is they don't attack Donald Trump directly on any of these cases because the people he appointed at the FBI and elsewhere, it's just easier to attack them So you can get the Trump vote without attacking Donald Trump. You attack his surrogates. This is what I've been telling you about. The problem is Donald Trump is on the side of the truth. When it comes to the Candace Owens nonsense and all the other stuff about Butler and all that, you don't think he knows? So what, he knows some hidden knowledge out there about getting shot in the head and he's just not telling anyone? But you know, despite the fact everything you said is a lie and you could have just read it in a Fox News piece. Here's Donald Trump yesterday, President Trump at the White House. He's talking to the widow of Charlie Kirk, Erica Kirk, in the front row. He doesn't mention any names about who he should sue, who she should sue, but he's pretty clear about his position. This is what makes me laugh. Like, there's only one team here. It's the MAGA team. You trying to segregate us out and separate us off, it's not working. You just keep getting your asses kicked. Check this out.
I think you should sue him, but, you know, I told her, you ought to sue somebody. They're so jealous of Erica. I said, you ought to sue their... I can say you're not allowed to say this. You have to be nicer. Sue their ass off.
So I don't understand. He's not satisfied with how the investigation was conducted. Is that your point if you're a rage bot? Yet he seems satisfied enough that all the misinformation, bullshit specialist, propaganda people out there, he's encouraging Erica to sue them. Does that even make any sense? That's why this audience continues to roll on. And everyone else, I've seen this bullshit over and over. It's a grift. Up, down, then some other person comes in and the rage bots and everybody realizes they're bullshitting and then down. I've seen it over and over again. All right, so some other stuff happened yesterday too that's really important. That's why we got to get into this because this is going to change the whole country. I want you to listen to me clearly. Ladies and gentlemen, if the Supreme Court rules against Donald Trump in this anchor baby birthright citizenship case, listen, we are in a world of freaking hurt. It'll create a de jure, not de facto, constitutional right for illegal aliens, illegal foreigners, potentially from foreign enemy countries of the United States, to come to the United States of America, even illegally, set it up with birth tourism or get a quickie visa overstay, whatever, it doesn't matter, and basically come into the country, have a child, and guarantee that child citizenship. Now you may say, wow, that sounds like that could be a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to be a problem. It is a problem right now. These individuals that have children here illegally who get citizenship have children that grow up with a U.S. passport. Some of these people could be enemies of a foreign power that could become, military officers. Does anyone else see this as a problem? A little out of order, the Will Cain clip. Well, Will Cain's my friend over at Fox. He has a show on 4 p.m. Eastern, so it's a great show. Will Cain, yesterday on his show, did the storyboard. I want you to see how big of a problem this is. In case you think what I just said is bullshit, oh my gosh, some foreign power. They're not going to breed into the country a bunch of spies. It's just a couple of people here or there. A couple of people? You sure about that? Supreme Court, man, I hope you guys are paying attention here because whatever you decide, this is an existential issue. Check this out.
Reports of foreign wealth being used to manipulate the system. One Chinese billionaire reportedly has more than 100 U.S.-born children through surrogacy. The idea, build a future family and a business succession plan. Some clients, by the way, request up to 100 babies via multiple surrogacies. $100,000. And why would they do that? Because babies born here are automatically U.S. citizens. Also, surrogacy is illegal in China. Nearly 41% of international surrogate parents in the United States are Chinese. So why is this such a debate? Look around the world. Much of Europe has restricted birthright citizenship. Asia basically ended it. The United States, still one of the few countries around the world that sits as an outlier.
Why are we one of the few countries around the world that does this? It's not... This isn't a business that's like desperately searching for customers, i.e. the United States government. You have probably close to 1 billion people who would enter the United States tomorrow if we just said, hey, open borders, everybody come on in. We're not like desperate for new citizens here. We get them. People come here because it's the greatest country on earth with more economic opportunity than any other place on earth. You get what I'm saying? We don't need this extra sales pitch like, hey, man, whatever, just come here legally, illegally, doesn't matter. Just come on over. We really need people, and we'll give your kids citizenship right away. We don't need it. Why are we doing this? There's a sliver of countries around the globe that do this kind of stupid stuff. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. This has become a cottage industry from enemies of the United States, countries that hate our guts, who can enter legally, illegally, just have a kid and we're good to go. Folks, Aisha Hasani at Fox she's a journalist, not an opinion person. I mean, she has opinions, but that's not her job. But she's a very calm, kind of level-headed person. I saw this tweet yesterday, and this kind of nailed it for me. Aisha Hasani, again, she's a reporter, but she says, I've seen birth tourism up close. It's a total abuse of the system. She says, think about it. Someone like me who was not born in the United States, but has lived here since I was 6 years old, similar to my wife, will never be able to run for president. But a child born here through birth tourism, then taken back and raised in their parents' country, never growing up with American values somehow can. American citizenship is not an insurance policy. Folks, listen. Natural born put aside, this is absolutely spot on. Like, you've got people who are here and did everything the right way from the time they were children. My wife is one of them. And now you just get to pop in illegally, legally, pay a few bucks for some birth tourism, and hey, man, you're just good to go. Natural born. This is insane. You know the adage of the Constitution, it's not a suicide pact emanating from the Supreme Court. It's not how do the justices not see this? Folks, this is a huge problem. And we've got a member of the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who, folks, has the intellect of seriously like a 20-year-old first-year law school student, if that. I know I'm moving a little out of order, but just roll me here for a second, guys. Here she is yesterday. This may be one of the most incredible, and I don't mean that in a good way, courtroom legal self-owns, S-E-L-F, not cell phone, self-own, you have ever heard. Here she is in her arguments yesterday, basically stating like, hey, so if you commit a crime here and you're arrested, like somehow that means allegiance to the country and the subject to jurisdiction thereof. If you're thinking I'm making this up, I am not. Here is Ketanji Brown Jackson. You're not some of you are lawyers. For those who are not lawyers in the chat, we got 51,000 people there. For those of you who are lawyers, sit this one out in the comment section. You already know this. For those of us who are not lawyers, does that make sense to you? That in a courtroom, a Supreme Court justice is making this absurd analogy that because you're arrested in Japan, you somehow have allegiance to Japan? I'm not making this up, bro. Check this out.
Obviously have permanent allegiance based on being born in whatever country you're from. That's what everybody recognizes. But you also have local allegiance when you are on the soil of this other sovereign. And I was thinking, I, a U.S. citizen, am visiting Japan. And what it means is that, if I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you?
Oh my gosh, this woman, I'm really trying to not be terribly obnoxious and control my language. Is this even real? Is this woman like an NPC? If you, Ketanji Brown Jackson, go to Japan, you are in the country of Japan. The country of Japan has a set of laws. If you violate those laws, the country of Japan will likely arrest you and try you for violating those laws. However, you are also a citizen of the United States because you were subject to the political jurisdiction of the United States. Which means if you're in Japan, the United States government can't wait for you to leave U.S. soil and then violate your constitutional rights. She's actually making the opposite point. Guy, are you getting this? Jasmine, does this make sense? She's like, I don't know. I don't think I'm getting it. Here's what I mean. Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is supposedly a lawyer, is making the opposite point. That when you are subject to the political jurisdiction of a sovereign state, you're a Mexican citizen who comes here illegally. You are not your children are not U.S. citizens if you are here illegally because you are subject to the jurisdiction of another power. She's saying, well, if I steal something in Japan, I could be arrested. Yes, the United States government also, if you steal something in Japan, can't serve a search warrant in your house where, I don't know where she lives, in Washington, D.C. or whatever, just because you're off U.S. soil. You still have rights because you're subject to the political jurisdiction of the United States government, even in Japan. Just like a Mexican citizen is subject to the political jurisdiction of Mexico. They are not in the country legally. She doesn't even understand. I'm not even a freaking lawyer. Yeah, that's a great. Guy's talking about how expats, people who leave the country, and you got to renounce your citizenship for even like tax law and things like that. This is amazing that this woman sits on the Supreme Court. I'm sorry to do this to you, but I got to play this again. It's short. It's 10 seconds. Do you know what's coming? I'm not even going to. I'm going to say, Guy, do you know where I'm going with this? All right, play it.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe the meaning
biologist.
of
You have to be so just to be clear, you have to be a biologist to know that a human adult female is a woman, but a lawyer doesn't understand that a U.S. citizen has rights in Japan while being subjected to Japan's laws while in Japan. You just figured that out or didn't figure it out? This is on Fox right now, by the way. Right now, as we speak, Jackson argues Birthright with stolen wallet analogy. This has become a laughing stock. See, there you go. These guys with the camera back there. I didn't even know we had them. I just figured that out a couple of weeks ago. We have so many cameras in this studio. I've only been here 3 months. We used to do a show from my house. It's on Fox right now. That is how much of a laughing stock this woman has become. Folks, it's not personal. I don't know her. I don't care to know her. She could be very nice. That's not the point. The point is, I'm a spreadsheets guy. I know what I did. I've given you all the numbers. I've laid out all the headlines, all the numbers, all the data. She owes us better than this. This all comes down to a very simple question. What does subject to the jurisdiction thereof mean? And I would argue strongly, along with a number of just sane lawyers out there, that it means you have to have established some legal domicile in the United States. How do we know that? Put up the 14th Amendment. There's a reason. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution is pretty clear on this. All persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. Reside meaning a domicile, like you live there, not like you're an illegal invader. It's right there. If the authors of the 14th Amendment didn't want any exceptions. In other words, you get here legally, illegally, have a child, child's a citizen no matter what. Then why put and subject to the jurisdiction thereof in it? Why not just say all persons born in the United States? This is not hard. This, again, is the gift of Donald Trump. Hey, time out. Well, not actual time out, but time. I didn't intend on going here, but I have to. This is the gift of Trump. Process that for a second. What's the gift of Trump? Folks, this conversation about birthright citizenship, before Donald Trump brought it up, was considered like heresy. I'm not kidding. Folks in the chat, you know it. Donald Trump moves this Overton window better than anyone else. No one had even thought about it. I mean, no one had even thought about it in the sense of that it was a mainstream political argument. Scholars had thought about it, Wong Kim and other cases. However, this was not a mainstream argument. It's like, oh yeah, you're born here, you're a citizen. And then Donald Trump brings it up, and what's the first thing they said, guys? He's a racist. He's a racist. So then they realize that's not going anywhere. Donald Trump keeps going with it. And all of a sudden now, people start to realize, like, Donald Trump's not a racist. This sounds like pretty sensible to me. And over the course of years, by Donald Trump continuing to hammer an issue, all of a sudden now, you even have some moderate Democrats even starting to say to themselves, like, maybe he's got a little bit of a point here. Nobody moves that window better than Trump. I'm telling you, I've been in this space over 10 years. And not a flex, it's just true. If you even mention the idea of birthright citizenship in any kind of whatever mainstream political forum, they'd be like, oh, come on, that's stupid. What are you, a racist? Now all of a sudden everybody's talking about it. Here's a Solicitor General yesterday, John Sauer, arguing this exact point about and the state they reside, meaning to be a citizen, your child, you should reside in a state and have a domicile. You shouldn't be illegally here. It's in the amendment. Here he is arguing this point. It's less than a minute, but it's worth your time. Check this out.
The text of the clause, we believe it says, born in the United States, born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and the states of which they reside. So there's a constitutional guarantee that applies to both federal or national and state citizenship. And the key point we make there is that that word reside, if you look at, for example, section 1473 of Justice Story's commentaries, was understood to mean domicile. So when they say subject to the jurisdiction, and then they go on to say you're a citizen of the United States and the state in which they reside, the very text of the clause itself presupposes that the citizen is domiciled in the United States. If they're present in a state at all, they reside there. Reside means domicile in the Constitution, and we think that strongly supports our interpretation. It's textual evidence of our domicile-based theory of jurisdiction.
Folks, listen, I'm just going to be straight with you. I'm not optimistic about this case at all at the Supreme Court. John Roberts has been incredibly unreliable for constitutional conservatism. He just has. He's become basically a swing vote. Gorsuch is very textual, but I don't know where they're going to go on this. Amy Coney Barrett, total wild card on this. There is a very good chance, sadly, I'm just trying to prepare you, that we, the American people, it's just Trump fighting for it, by the way. Trump is just, it's not a loss against Trump. It's a loss for us. Donald Trump's the one fighting the fight. It's not his loss. I mean, it's his loss in that he's an American citizen too. It's all of ours. I just want to prepare you that the Supreme Court could rule against the administration and us in this case, and you now have a de facto right to illegally invade the country, have a child here, and basically get a U.S. passport, which is good for, you could apply for the CIA, the military. You could be the son of 2 foreign agents here illegally. You're good to go. Don't forget that Will Cain segment. This is not a small number of people, folks. We're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions over time. In a country of only 300 million people, do you understand these? How did I not mention this? These people be able to vote. You want a bunch of foreign enemies of the United States secreting people in the country to get millions of people to vote? I didn't even mention that. I'm always thinking national security. Sign up for the military and elsewhere. This is insane. This is not the suicide pact. The Constitution is not this. It says it in the words. Be careful with this case. I will be pleasantly surprised if we get a dub on this, a W. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I've got W's of the day. Like I told you in the beginning of the show, you got to hit people with a little bit of bad news so they're prepared, but you got to hit them with the good news too, because we live in the greatest country on earth. Look at the flag behind me. There's a reason it's there. I love that flag. It's not a tablecloth. It's not a curtain. The fabric doesn't matter. It's the idea. We got a flag on both sides. You live in the greatest country on earth at the greatest time to be alive. Smile, big smile. And there were some huge W's that happened as well. I don't want to be pessimistic on the Supreme Court case. I just want to prepare you based on the arguments. I don't think they get it. Folks, let's be honest. The cost of living isn't just high. It's exhausting. If you've been leaning on credit cards lately to just cover the basics, groceries, gas, and utility bills, you're essentially paying a survival tax of 20% interest or more. It drains your wallet. You don't want that. My friends at American Financing have a better way for you. They're helping homeowners tap into their equity to pay off high-interest debt with mortgage rates currently in the 5s. That's fantastic. On average, American Financing is saving their customers $800 a month. That's nearly $10,000 a year back in your pocket. It takes just 10 minutes to find out what you could save. There are no upfront fees and no obligation to talk to a salary-based mortgage consultant. And here's the kicker. Start today and you can even delay 2 mortgage payments. It's big savings. Try them out. Give it a shot. American Financing, America's home for home loans. Here's the number. 888-994-7660. Again, American Financing, 888-994-7660, 888-994-7660. Or you can visit them online. It's a .net address, americanfinancing.net/Bongino. It's americanfinancing.net/Bongino. Give them a shot. They'd love to hear from you. Thanks, American Financing. We got to give you the dubs. There's so many W's. It's such a great time to be alive. I love the show. I love the country. I'm a happy warrior. I know I don't look it sometimes, but I promise you I am. What a great time to be alive in Trump term 2. And I told you, you elect him a second time, he's going to be a lame duck. I said, you're reading this all wrong. You're reading this all wrong. He's going to clean up the mess now, and there's no pressure for political fallout in another election at all. Here's what I mean. Here's a tweet yesterday by Peter St. Onge. I play some videos from him often. It focuses largely on economics. This is probably what you're not going to hear about in the media that wants you to believe we're losing in Iran. The border's not closed. Crime under Donald Trump is out of control. Inflation's out of control. They want you to believe all this bullshit, so they don't tell you any of this. Jobs grew last month at a 750,000 annual pace, while wages popped 4.5%. That's twice the inflation rate. If the war's really ending, we're back to the boom. Now, folks, that's kind of important what he says in there about wages growing 4.5% because it's not an economics class. However, there is a difference between nominal and real wages. Nominal wages are just the number. If your wages, for instance, went up 2% or 2.5% to be precise, right around there, if they went up 2.5%, you could go home and tell your wife, hey, I got a 2.5% raise. It's nominal. That's the number. But it's not a real wage increase because inflation's running about 2.5%. So basically, you're just treading water. If wages go up 4.5% and inflation's 2.5%, then yes, you have now more buying power. That is a good thing. Of course, you're not going to hear about it in the mainstream media because they want you to believe you're living through the global apocalypse right now, when in fact, you're living through the golden age of being an American citizen. Here's another one you're probably not going to hear about outside of limited outlets. This is Rick Santelli, does a good job at CNBC. It's CNBC. Hey, man, retail sales look pretty good. When people actually buy stuff in the retail market, again, outside of limited exposure here, you're probably not going to hear a lot about this either. Check this out.
February numbers for retail sales, expecting a headline number up 0.5%. Joe, comes in better than expected, up 0.6%. That would be the strongest since June of last year when it was up 1%. If you look at July of last year, it was exactly the same, up 0.6. Now, let's strip out autos. It still remains strong. Loses 1/10, up 0.5%, and that's better than expectations. Sequentially higher, as was the headline number, up 0.5%, the best since August of last year.
Now, combine the economy, which is, by the way, why is this happening? The growing economy. Why is this happening in this? And I'm not saying, hey, this is all the administration. It's you. I mean, it's obviously you're the economy. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to go back to the, AI, whatever. Again, it's not just AI. It's that the explosive growth in computing power in general, the ability to solve problems in the digital space is growing so geometrically that problems we've had that would have taken a century to solve, superconductors, advanced material science, artificial intelligence, and the explosive growth in computing power is solving these problems like that, which is leading to massive productivity enhancements, which are filtering through the economy. And there's been no bigger supporter of getting the government out of the way and letting that happen than Donald Trump. That's why you're seeing this stuff. It's not hard. I'll give you a quick example. Let's say right now you have a wire that conducts electricity between a tower and a factory. There's always going to be a certain amount of impedance in that wire. When AI says, hey, find a better superconductor, if your electricity costs go down by 20% because you got a better way to get from the electrical generation plant to the factory, then that's 20% less you have to pay for electricity. That does what? Goes into your business, wages and salaries and other things. That's what artificial intelligence and computing power are doing right now. They're solving problems like this everywhere. Medicine, cancer research, material science, all of it. And then when the quantum revolution hits, folks, you're going to have generational human problems like, how do we cure cancer? Is there a vaccine for HIV? These things are going to be figured out in seconds. There's a danger there, of course. You don't want them to blow up the world, a big one. But that's why this is happening. Now, combine that, productivity enhancements, getting more output from the same electricity just because the AI figured out a copper wire problem. Combine that with Donald Trump's deregulation, getting the government out of the way so people don't have to pay the government off to run a business. Combine that with Donald Trump's efforts at getting rid of government fraud. He's got now Vice President Vance working on it too. You have the government workforce down 10%. That's a big, big money suck out of the economy. I love our military and law enforcement, but there's way too many government employees at the state, local, territorial level. Way too many government employees. I told you, government employment has become like a jobs program in the public education system. Donald Trump's team is focused like a laser on this. We had numerous arrests in Minnesota. There's a number of arrests going on and investigations in California. Now, another federal arrest. I go, nothing's happening. I know, doomers. I get it. And then again, we show you stuff that's happening and you move on to another thing you say isn't happening. That happens. Wash, rinse, repeat. I get it. Go back to your mommy and your tentacle porn on the internet. Like that reporter that time. Remember that guy who got busted with that? So out of all the bad stories. Here's a story out of New York yesterday about a federal investigation, I believe it's EDNY, Eastern District of New York, about a major government fraud ring. But I want you to pay very close attention to the end. This is the Trump law enforcement, federal law enforcement infrastructure working to knock out fraud. But I want you to listen to Communist Mayor Mamdani at the end. Because Mamdani knows what I told you too, that if you're a big government Democrat, independent journalists are now going to be exposing this stuff on X and TikTok and elsewhere, and you're going to be embarrassed. So you better get on the right side of this quick. Mamdani's all in on this one. He has no choice. Check this out.
Roberto Samity walked out of Brooklyn federal court in silence after his arraignment. He's one of 4 people now facing charges in a corruption investigation tied to the city-funded homeless shelter organization, Braggs. Federal prosecutors say Samity and another defendant, Ronald Jean Torellis, stole more than $1 million from the taxpayer-backed nonprofit. They now both face several charges, including wire fraud and embezzlement. The indictment, unsealed Tuesday, drawing swift reaction from Mayor Zohran Mamdani.
We'll definitely be looking into these because any allegation, especially if it's being substantiated, of improper action and behavior is one that has to be followed up on.
This is killing this guy. He ran for mayor on this communist platform of my big government's going to steal all your money and we're going to spend it better than you can. Big government is the solution. It is the Messiah. Genuflect, get down on a knee, bow your heads before big government. Now he has to admit, oh man, listen, this big government thing may not be working out. A couple people arrested here. This is probably just the tip of the iceberg. This is the Dan Bongino theory popping up again of government fraud being exposed by independent journalists. Even the big government advocates, the Bernie Sanders, the Liz Warrens, the Mamdamis, the AOCs are not going to be able to run from this. It's going to get embarrassing. Just like I said to you in the beginning of the show about the people popping off about ongoing trials right now, screwing up due process for everybody because they want Twitter clicks and money. In due time, you're going to be made fools of. Because ultimately, people have to swear to things in depositions and in court. You think Mamdani doesn't understand that? That this explosion in independent journalism, the Nick Shirleys, Cam Higbees, and others out there, that you think he doesn't understand this is going to be a perpetual embarrassment? Folks, this isn't even the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg. I'm under no illusions that, 100 arrests in Minnesota and 10 arrests in New York are going to solve the $1 trillion government fraud problem. I'm just telling you it's going to become a perpetual political embarrassment for advocates of big government welfare state, folks. Tying it into why I put it after the AI segment. This is why I need you to be wary. They will never admit capitalism works in free markets. They won't. They're only going to change their stories to, okay, there's probably a lot of government fraud, but that's only because the bureaucracy isn't working. I just think we should give the money right to the people now through a universal basic income. That's going to be their shift. Watch, mark the show, flags in the chat. Put them in because it's going to happen. You'll be like, wow, Dan was right again. They're not going to be able to run from this. I enjoy being like 2-3 years ahead of the curve on this. Watch them change the argument as a flood of independent journalists expose trillions of dollars in government fraud here and around the world. They're going to be like, well, we should just give money directly to people now. Because they don't want people to work. That's why. The flags in the chat. There you go. Erupting in the chat again. Mark this show. They're all going to start running on this in elections in the future. We need a universal basic income. People aren't going to have anything to do. Oh, yeah, sure. They're right. But lazy people won't have anything to do because they don't want anything to do. You think people like you and all the union workers out there in the chat and truckers are going to sit on their ass all day because of AI? I don't know what to do. Morons have been saying this forever about free markets. The horse and buggy after they invented the gasoline-powered engine. Oh my gosh, what are they going to do? I don't know. Something like everyone always figures out who wants to do something. I've had like 100 different careers. I'm always looking for something to do. All right, shifting gears a little bit. Last night, I don't know if you saw it. Who saw it in the chat? Donald Trump gave a primetime speech, 9 p.m. last night, on the status of the Iran war. And he made a really great point. I wish people would take to heart. And I want to say again in advance, please, so you understand, because I know not everyone in the chat is a huge fan of this. I understand. I respect and value your opinion. Matter of fact, I got to tell you something. I would be bothered if there weren't alternate opinions on it and people out there who were concerned when it comes to putting boots on the ground. Guys, ladies, I told you, my family, we lost my uncle in Vietnam. I never met him. He died before he was shot in the back in Vietnam. He got a Bronze Star and with a V device on it. He was a great man, Greg Ambrose. I bring him up a lot. I only bring it up because my entire family was changed. You could never mention his name again. I'm telling you, like my mom never got over it. My grandmother never got over it. They're both not around anymore. God rest their souls. But they never got over that. This is a gravely serious decision. However, did you guys ever see the movie on Netflix, House of Dynamite? It's written by kind of a lefty, but I strongly encourage you. I think it's on Netflix and one of these other platforms. I saw it in a movie theater down in D.C. It's a bit exaggerated and hyperbolic, but if you haven't seen the movie without kind of spoiling it for you, the gist of it is what would happen if a rogue state fired a nuclear missile at the United States, but there was no attribution. They were able to disguise where it came from. What would happen? I want to be clear now. This is an interesting premise. They're not saying, the movie isn't saying, hey, what would happen if Russia fired a nuke? The answer is we'd fire one back and the whole world would be destroyed. That's fairly obvious. Mad, mutually assured destruction, correct? Get it? That's not what the movie's about. The movie's about a nuclear weapon fired at the United States that manages to disguise its origin, whether it's an off-sea barge or whatever it is. So nobody knows who to respond to. The nuclear weapon, there's about 18 minutes the entire United States government has to respond. I get it. There's been a lot of very valid criticism. It's a movie that, this would work different than people. Fine. The movie's interesting because I just want to get to one quick point that this is what a rogue state will do. The Iranian theocracy and the mullahs, if they were to have a nuclear weapon, how do you know they're not going to smuggle it out of the country? How do you know they're just not going to, what are you going to do? Like nuke all of Iran because this mullah is a crazy person? I mean, these are serious questions where you don't have those same questions with China or Russia. China and Russia, for as crazy as they are, understand it would be the annihilation of all of Russia and all of China if they were to launch a nuclear weapon. They get that. The mullahs don't care. You understand they don't give a damn at all. They're like, they kill their own people. The Iranians kill their own people, the mullahs. You think they give a shit if we were to launch a nuke back? They don't care. This is not China or Russia. This is a bunch of apocalyptically minded, theocratic, insane thugs. Donald Trump was trying to make this point last night that yes, this is a gravely serious decision to send troops into harm's way. But the even more serious decision is me kicking the can down the road and letting them blackmail us in the future with a nuclear weapon pointed at us, by the way, in Europe too. This is a rogue state. The threat is different. Even the North Koreans understand what would happen if they were to launch. The Iranian mullahs don't care. I want to play this. Go at it with the Rubio about the shield, not the NATO one. Everyone should listen to this. Marco Rubio, has done an amazing job as Secretary of State. I need everyone to just take a moment and listen to this. This should have been broadcast everywhere yesterday. I saw it on Twitter, but not enough people saw this. This is about 1 minute and 15 seconds of Rubio making the case. By the way, everything he's saying here is factually accurate. I'm sure of it. The Iranians were trying to build essentially a conventional missile shield around their program to make taking the program out so costly because they would launch conventional missiles everywhere. Europe, Diego Garcia, elsewhere, which they've already done, by the way, Diego Garcia. And if we let them proceed any further, it would have been almost impossible without massive casualties to get this nuclear program stopped. Here it is. You all need to hear this. Check this out.
Many Americans are asking, why did the United States have to attack Iran now? Well, let me explain. Iran wants to have nuclear weapons. Of that, there is zero doubt. If what they truly wanted, which is what they claim, is nuclear energy, well, they could have nuclear energy like all the other countries in the world have it. And that is you import the fuel and you build reactors above ground. That's not what Iran has done. They build their reactors and their facilities deep in mountains, away from the public glare. And they want to enrich that material. The same equipment that they could use to enrich material for energy, they could use to quickly enrich it to weapons grade. So it is clear that they've been offered every opportunity to have a nuclear program that allows them to have energy, not weapons. And every single time they have turned it down. But why the attack now? Well, what was Iran trying to do? Iran was trying to build a conventional shield, in essence, have so many missiles, have so many drones that no one could attack them, and they were well on their way. We were on the verge of an Iran that had so many missiles and so many drones that no one could do anything about their nuclear weapons program in the future. That was an intolerable risk. Under no circumstances can a country run by radical Shia clerics with an apocalyptic vision of the future ever possess nuclear weapons. And under no circumstances can they be allowed to hide and protect that program and their ambitions behind a shield of missiles and drones that no one can do anything about. This was our last best chance to eliminate that conventional threat, that conventional shield that they were trying to build, and the president made the right decision to wipe it out now.
Yes. You don't think Donald Trump knows this? Everyone should see that because it's true. The Iranians learned from the North Koreans back in the mid-90s. The North Koreans took a bunch of conventional missiles, basically directed them, when it launched them, but pointed them at South Korea and said, go yourself, double barrel middle finger, we're building a nuclear weapon, and if you test us, we're going to launch all of this at South Korea. There's going to be another Korean War. And between the Clinton administration and others, they let them build a nuclear weapon. Now we've got to deal with it. Donald Trump, a student of history on the matter, you can bash him all you want. He's clearly made better decisions than a lot of these so-called white paper intellects. Yeah, good point. Vince, is on it. He just texted me, hey, Dan, Iran is the third largest proven oil reserves on Earth. Why the hell would they even need a nuclear energy program? Because they want to blow us up with a nuke. Thank you, Vince. That's a good point. But they learned the lesson from North Korea, that if you can build a large enough conventional ballistic missile payload, it's like having body armor on for your program. You become resistant to bullets your way because no one wants to start a regional war in Korea or in the Middle East. He understood we were at the tipping point. Folks, two more things to highlight about what's going on in Iran right now, too. China is watching, so is Russia. You don't think that our ability to destroy Iran from the inside out, wars happen from the outside in. I've been telling you about the Wall Street Journal piece. Traditionally, wars, you want to siege the castle, the outside in. We are so powerful now with our stealth technology, our military, we can stealthily secrete our ninjas inside the castle and fight from the inside out. That's our aerial stealth technology and seaborne stealth technology. They can't even see us coming anymore. Why is this related to China? Because the systems Iran was using to detect the stealth technology that failed, many of them were from China and Russia. So you don't think China and Russia right now, it's a point that's not discussed often, folks, are saying, wait. We sold those airborne detection systems to the Iranians and they totally shit the bed? Wait, do we have that here? Yeah, we do. Wow, that sounds like trouble. You don't think they're watching this too? Oh, look at this breaking news. Flip to the back camera. This just happened now. FBI raids. Target alleged healthcare fraudsters in California. I thought that wasn't... guys, this isn't... This is just breaking now. I'm not kidding you. It's on Fox as we speak. It's now 10:54 if you're watching live. If you're on VOD, sorry. Here, look. Breaking news. Raids target alleged healthcare fraudsters in California. You get the IRS, you get the FBI there, federal task force. I thought nothing was... I don't understand. I thought nothing was happening. You see the doomers? And I promise you, the doomers will ignore this story, the New York arrest for fraud, and they'll move on to the next thing they tell you Donald Trump's administration isn't doing. Because that's all they want to talk about is doom. Iran war's lost. There's nothing being done about fraud. Nobody in the deep state's been arrested. Okay. Sure, you ignored all that stuff. Here's Donald Trump last night. It's the end. I want you to listen to the end of his comments last night because this was the most important part. Again, for the doomers out there, this is a forever war where Trump made the point, we've been there 4 weeks. What are you talking about, a forever war? He went into all of these wars from Vietnam back. Some of them lasted decades. We've been there 4 weeks. He's already given a timeline until mid-April where he's going to reevaluate where we are, which will be about a month and a half, which seems kind of important because that doesn't sound like a forever war to me. But he's crystal clear with the Iranians too. You want to keep effing around? We're going to continue building nukes. There's nothing you guys can do about it as you kill every single one of us. Trump's like, okay, these next 2 or 3 weeks aren't going to be pretty either. So he's giving them the warning. Check this out.
Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable.
They're all dead. That's kind of a problem for a regime. The instability at the top. Did you see the story yesterday? The instability at the top in the IRGC, Basij militia, and elsewhere is so bad that they're recruiting like 12-year-olds to patrol the street for them. 12-year-olds. But yet you listen to the doomers, and this war's already lost, man. It's over. I can't believe it. Trump coalition's collapsing entirely all around. God forbid, like Trump does the right thing and protects your kid from nuclear annihilation, when every other bullshit politician didn't do jack shit for decades, while this freaking thugocracy over there threatened death to America, and we're going to build a nuclear weapon to ensure it happens. Everyone else had their crank in their hands doing nothing. The first guy who had the balls to do it when he knew, in fact, it may not be politically popular. And what happens? You get a bunch of fair-weather friends to the administration shitting on him at the first opportunity. It's a freaking disgrace, man. I can't stand these people. We got him now, Trump. We got him. You've been saying that for 10 years. It's certainly the end this time. You think the loyal people out there who at least want to give the guy a chance, I'm not telling you not to have an opinion on it at all. Don't even go there. It's not true. Yeah, you just said that. Lynn and Jeff. Only President Trump had the stones. Yes. To do it. And he knew it wasn't going to be the most politically popular thing. But you know what's really politically unpopular? An unattributed nuclear missile headed to the United States to take out the city of Chicago and kill, millions of people. That's kind of politically unpopular too. And by the way, what is with our so-called friends and European allies? Folks, I had strong dealings with international partners during my time in government on the counterterror front because we have to. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't want you to ever forget this. So write this down. Now, having seen the other side of it, I don't know if this is an exact number, but it's pretty damn close. In the counterterror space, the global international security space, and the global law enforcement space, in other words, international crime, international terror, international defense, the United States is carrying, I'll even lowball it a little bit to be unbelievably fair. We're carrying at least 75% of the payload. I can tell you, in my experience on the counterterror front, we have valuable partners, but they give us about 25% of what we give them. We are the indispensable ally. And the fact that some so-called NATO allies, when we've been carrying NATO for decades, are now telling us we can't use our own bases is a freaking disgrace. And I'm frankly happy that the president is calling this bullshit out. Europe wants to defend itself? Go right ahead. You're in the ballistic missile range of the Iranians, and we took care of the freaking problem. Where the fuck are you guys? This is where I part ways with a lot of old school GOP folks. NATO has been the greatest alliance in human history. It's provided value. Correct. You're correct. I'm not disputing that. But the greatest alliance in military history, I think that's slightly hyperbolic, considering we now need them to prevent the world from, moving into nuclear annihilation by a rogue state launch of a nuclear weapon. And what are you doing? These NATO countries are sitting on their ass. Oh, we got you guys. No, you didn't get us. You didn't get us. Here's Rubio again calling bullshit on this NATO scam. I'm sorry, man, but it's time to reevaluate this relationship if they're going to be fair weather friends too. Check this out.
Now we have reached a point where the NATO alliance means that we can't use those bases, that in fact, that we can no longer use those bases to defend America's interests. Then NATO is a one-way street. then NATO is simply about us having troops in Europe to defend Europe. But when we need their help, not their help, we're not asking them to conduct airstrikes. When we need them to allow us to use their military bases, their answer is no. Then why are we in NATO? You have to ask that question. Why do we have billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, over the years, trillions of dollars, and all these American forces stationed in the region? If we can only use, in our time of need, we're not going to be allowed to use those bases. So I think there's no doubt, unfortunately, after this conflict is concluded, we are going to have to re-examine that relationship. We're going to have to re-examine the value of NATO and that alliance for our country. Ultimately, that's a decision for the president to make.
Folks, listen, it was never intended to be a history class on this show. But I'm going to ask you a serious question. How many times are we going to save Europe? World War I, World War II, the Marshall Plan. To European leaders, I know we have a big audience overseas, to the citizens of these countries, many of whom who are with us in the international fight for liberty and freedom, this is not directed at you. Thank you for being here. However, to your leaders who keep shitting on this country and NATO while asking us for money to protect you in the global security umbrella, how many times are we going to have to save you? Do you guys even understand? Like, over there, like, we had to save you, your countries, during what really was a European theater war up until Pearl Harbor? We had to save you. France, really? You really want to go there? Wasn't for us, you'd be speaking German. Do you understand, like, the threat of the Nazi regime built over a long time? And the Europeans, whether it was the Sudetenland, Neville Chamberlain and others, the threat of Nazi Germany and the rise of Hitler did not happen overnight. The Europeans kept forfeiting and forfeiting and forfeiting until they were forced into war. And then we had to come and save you. I'm sorry that's difficult to say, but it's true. You now have a similar threat building, but it's like Hitler with a nuclear weapon. And you've got a guy, by the way, you got a group of thug freaking mullahs, insane Islamic radicals who don't just only care about killing the Jews, they want to kill everyone. It's like Hitler with a nuclear weapon. And Europe's like, we're going to sit this one out? You fought a valiant fight in World War II once the threat was acknowledged. Once Austria happened, everybody saw it was going to go down. And I applaud your grandfather's bravery for doing it. My grandfather fought over there, so I don't need any lectures on it. He never talked about it at all. Frank Bongino fought in the Battle of the Bulge, never mentioned a word about it. Matter of fact, if you even mentioned it, he'd walk out of the room. But we fought there too. We fought on your soil. Thousands of our brothers, sisters, grandfathers, baseball coaches, teachers went over there, fought, and were buried on your soil. And this is how you treat us? Forget about the money, the fact that we finance the greatest military on earth that's become the de facto cop for international sanity and security. Forget that for a second. It's not even about the money. It's a freaking principle, man. We got our people buried on your soil because we've come to save you so many times. You've got a ballistic missile threat that'll hit you way before it hits us. From a soon-to-be nuclear power, if nothing is done, led by a bunch of absolute lunatics screaming death to America, death to the infidels. And you're just going to sit on your ass? Unacceptable. Totally, completely unacceptable. That was a lot. I think I need to leave you with some good news. Sorry. Just really passionate about this, guys. And to those of you who served in our audience and continue to serve, and to those of you family members out there who lost people who served, or we have people overseas right now in our Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, our Coast Guard, Thank you. All America all the time. You're all America all the time. All right. This may be the second greatest cell phone, not cell phone, self-own on today's show today. Kind of on a bit of a lighter note. However, if I let you go today, actually, I got a couple more things I want to get to, but if I let you go today without seeing this video, I'd be ashamed. So this representative, wait, what was his name again? I'm sorry. I know Jasmine told me. Fines? Yeah, Fines. This representative, this politician, Democrat, Shamari Fines, he's given a speech, it looks like, in a church. And he's obviously making the point that we don't have ID because, I don't know, it's the black community, which is a racist point in and of itself. A lot of people don't have ID. So these voter ID, Save America Act laws are discriminatory. No, it's discriminatory to suggest black people can't get IDs. So he's in the church and he's trying to prove his point. He says, hey, listen, do me a favor. Raise your hand in this audience if you don't have an ID. I guess he thought like there were going to be like 10, 15, 20 people or so raising their hand. Did you see this video? I put it out yesterday on X because I couldn't stop laughing. Check this out.
So regardless about how you feel about voter ID, right? This is not about that. This is about ease of registration, right? The most common form of ID that everybody has is a driver's license, right? I'm of a different era. I'm of a different generation. I probably feel a little bit differently about it. But watch this. How many people in here do not have an ID? Right? Everybody has an ID, right? So my thoughts on it a little bit different.
Shamari figures that's the response he would get. Gee's video of the day. Folks, listen, let's just be straight with these Democrat zeros fighting against an 80-20 issue called voter ID. Everybody wants it. Everybody supports it. The 20% of people who don't support it probably don't even know what it is. It's not even an 80-20 issue. It's probably a 95-5 issue. You are tilting against windmills. You are swimming upstream. There's no tailwinds behind you on this at all. They're only headwinds. You have nothing to go on. Black Americans are, I can't believe we even have to have this. This is embarrassing, guys. Black Americans are perfectly capable of getting an ID. I cannot believe that's a controversial sentence to Democrats. And by the way, if your model of governance, as 2028 comes around and a bunch of Democrats like Gavin Newsom and others are going to declare their runs for the presidency, if your model of big government liberalism was working so well, then how come in the California's governor's race, they're all having a problem in that race fixing the, hold on to that. Get that Wall Street Journal thing ready to go. I got to set this up. I think this is probably the funniest non-video component of the show today. There's an issue in the California governor's race right now. There's a whole boatload of Democrats. They have this jungle primary. There's two Republicans. You got Hilton and Bianco that may turn out to be the top two in the race because it's top two finishers. However, the Democrats would be embarrassed and humiliated, which they deserve. The problem is all the Democrats running in the race, hilarious. People are going to these town halls who live in California, like homelessness, crime, the state's being run terribly, the taxes are too high. And none of the Democrats can actually say anything in response because they don't want to criticize Newsom, who's the crappy governor now, who's going to be running for president 2028. None of them want to be on the record. So what do? People come up, hey, taxes are too high, crime is out of control. They go, Trump did it. Trump did it. Put up that Wall Street Journal piece. This is my favorite piece of the day. It's by Kim Strassel. She talks about how the Democrat mess is also a function of the usual progressive pieties. California is beset by high taxes, soaring costs, crime, and homelessness, thanks to wildly progressive policies. Yet no Democrat candidate is willing to admit to those policy failings or criticize the record of Governor Gavin Newsom. So they're vying with each other to be the most anti-Trump candidate. This is hilarious. Imagine being out on the campaign trail and you've got a bunch of potential constituents as you're running for governor going, man, the business around here, the business environment is shit. The homelessness problem's out of control, street crime, drug use, fentanyl. Gavin Newsom's great. Trump did it. Now you see this morning the breaking news. It just happened on Fox. Massive federal government operation on healthcare fraud. Again, I thought nothing was happening. Hey, people are so full of shit. Watch as other stuff happens going forward, though, and they continue to tell you this. Maybe it's an op. You ever think of that? Here's a great tweet by Christopher Rufo I want you to check out, too. Christopher Rufo, exclusive. Multiple senior HHS officials estimate that under Gavin Newsom, California's state Medicaid program has lost 25% of its budget to fraud. That would mean it's currently losing $50 billion a year to scammers, fraudsters, and organized crime rings. Notice this tweet was from April 1st. And then that op happened this morning. I don't know anything about it. I've been out of government. I know some cases that were going on when I was there. But interesting. What's Gavin Newsom going to say? What's he going to testify on the perps, on the suspect's behalf? It's his state. All right, folks, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We will be back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. You can always check out Haley at noon, Haley Carania, and Vince at 8 a.m. Two great shows. Also, Paula asked me to mention to you Bongino Report. Bongino Report is your alternative to the increasingly deranged left-wing Drudge Report that is full-time anti-Trump right now. We have BonginoReport.com. There's an email list you can sign up for, and we will give you the top stories of the day every day. We have a ton of members on it, so up to you, BonginoReport.com. Sign up for the email list. You get all the best news stories of the day about what's going on all in one spot. We appreciate that. Download the Rumble app. Give us a follow at rumble.com/Bongino. Click that follow button. It is free. You'll get notified about the show every day at 10 a.m. And give us a follow on Apple and Spotify if you wouldn't mind. We really appreciate it. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Carania.
Host of Vince.
Host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here.
Right here on the Bongino Report channel.
Live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Noon weekdays. And if you miss it, no worries. The show will always be right here and anywhere you find a podcast. Thanks for watching.